Well, guys, I've been out there on the porch with the sawzall sawing it out. Um, experience tells me to quit while you're ahead sometimes. That sawzall was starting to get good to me. And there's one place right here on the neck of the horse I got in just a slight bit deep. But I've drawn everything so big that I'm pretty sure that this isn't going to bother me because I can scoot the mane back into the mane. See, I left enough room for the mane and stuff. So the next step on a point perspective carving like this, you guys, you figure out what is the furthest thing away from you on as you're looking at it. Well, here we know that his back arm and this weapon is all the way to the back. This shoulder is his front arm, which is going to be the closest thing to me. So I can start taking this background down. Same way with see, I didn't get in and carve in between the horse's hoof with the saw or anything, only because I made this one little boo-boo and experience says, you know what, you're going to take care of this when you carve it on in further. So don't get too happy with that sawzall, trying to get too close. I know, it's tempting to get in there as close as you can. That's just like these back legs here. I'm not sure where they're going to be positioned or anything until I get my guys started. So this back leg of the horse here, the furthest away from you, and this front leg is the closest one to me. So what I'll do is begin to round out the horse's neck and head and stuff. I'll begin to take the back part back on this back arm. I'll start to round out this front arm and begin to rough in just a little bit where the face is going to go. I might want the face closer to me. I want it maybe further ahead. At this point in the game, you're kind of wishy-washy with everything because you're so far away from anything. So I'm going to begin to drop back the areas that I absolutely know are going to be back further. I know that this cape is going to be at an angle back. See, I left room for a cape flowing off from his shoulders and stuff. I'm probably going to leave this shield. It's unexplained. I mean, what's it hanging from on the horse? We have artistic license. We don't have to explain every little thing. And I did want the shield on there because most of all the Viking stuff that you see, they have weapons and shields and stuff. So I wanted to try to crowd it in there. Well, it's my piece. I can make it up any way I want to. So that's what I'm going to do for a little while. I'm going to take these back legs that I know are back, the arm and the weapon that are the back ones back, and I'm going to round up the back of the horse's neck and begin to shrink the horse's head in just a little bit. So the next time I talk to you guys, that should have some of that done, and then we'll move on from there. Well, hey, you guys, I kind of wanted to bring you up to date, so to speak, on where I'm at here. I worked on it a little more yesterday after I sawed it out. And you might notice I left this whole area down here. But I did begin to work the weapon back. The only part of the drawings that I left on there was where I had his foot, his arm drew, and I left his nose a little. But I began to take and shape a little on the horse. I took the back legs of the horse back a little bit. I'm a long ways from anything, but anytime you're doing a composition type piece like this, and you're involving the human figure, let's say, then you have to once decide how big is your human figure. And so, without going into a lot of schooling and detail, I figure our guy's about 17 and a half inches tall. Of course, he's sitting on the horse. So the key word here is going to be approximately, and then I got to looking and I think, well, his head length, it may be 2¼ inches long to 2 3/8 inches, somewhere in there, approximately. That approximate word for a while here is going to be key. It all falls back to the rule of leave it bigger than what you think it needs to be at this. But I'll give you guys just a quick example of what, when I'm laying out the human figure, here's our 17 and a half inches or whatever. I figured my head length's around 2¼ and I'll show you how I usually will lay out when I'm doing a full figured deal. Here's my first head length. The second head length will bring you usually to the nipples. All right. The nipples are usually 1 head length apart in there. So a lot of times when I'm drawing, the shoulders are usually 2 head lengths apart. So when I'm drawing my figure, I'll usually bring my neck down a ways like this. I'm coming out to my shoulders. This is my head length, 2 head lengths from the center, right? All right. So we're getting that. A lot of times when I'm drawing, since I know the next head length from the chin down hits the nipples, I will draw these pectoral muscles in and under these nipple area like this. Keep in mind, this is all approximate stuff. What's happening, I'm going to show you in a minute. I'm trying to find out where my guy's even sitting on this horse at. So the next head length down from the nipples will usually bring you to the belly button. And when I'm drawing my figure, a lot of times I'll do this, you guys. His rib cage usually ends up around the belly button area. So sometimes I will draw my rib cage like this, a little here, and this rib cage actually comes in a little bit like that, which this is your belly button area here, right? Well, the abdomen usually comes around here and here. The next head length down will usually bring you to the crotch. So what I'll do is I'll come in slightly at, this is our waist area, right? But then we're coming back out to the hips, which I may be a little wide. The hips are usually about 1.5 heads or so. That all depends. It changes with person to person. All right, the next head length down from the belly button usually will bring you to the crotch area here. So I'll begin, a lot of times here's what I'll do. Once I get my upper proportions going for me, sometimes I'll start back at the ground again, and 2 head lengths from the ground up usually will bring you approximately to the knees. And if we're doing 2¼ head lengths, we're going to say approximately 4.5. I'm going to give it a little. I'm going to go 4 3/4 to the knee area. So let's draw our legs down. We're coming from the crotch towards the knee here, you guys. Then let's draw from our knee. A lot of times I'll do this at my knees. I'll draw a little kneecap like this thing. Of course, keep in mind, we're just doing approximate. And then I'll draw my calf coming down And of course, his feet are facing towards us. And of course, his toes will be, in this area. Feet back up. We're coming in a little at the knee. Of course, this can all round out a little, you guys. I'm not the best drawer in the world, but I've laid out over my 40 plus years of carving, I've laid out the full figure 100 times anyway. I know I have. And because I used to do cigar store indents, right? So I would lay out how big my cigar store indent would. Now, about a head and a half on the arms, you guys. And I just was going to put this down a second to show you. From the shoulder to the elbow, approximately a head and a half. From the back of the elbow to this first fold on the knuckles, approximately a head and a half. And I'm guessing that my arms are around 3.5 inches on each one of those measurements I just give you. So I'm going to mark his elbow here, and then I'm also going to mark down to this first row of knuckles on there. So we're going to be looking, I don't know whether you guys can see or not. Maybe I should put this up here. Of course, these muscles are coming around like this. This is here. And we're bringing his, of course, his thumb's going to be back up here in the wrist, because this mark is this row of knuckles on his hand, right? So we're going to draw his thumb. It may not be correct. This is just a quick idea to show you guys how I usually will lay out the figure in there. And of course, the other side here, I won't go on with that. Let's move on to our piece. So now that I know the key to laying out, you guys, is try to figure out your head length. Now give yourself some room on stuff. Now, there's another thing that I always like to do, and that is an attitude line. In other words, if this guy's over like this, the attitude line's coming down and curving and around. If he's looking up, the attitude line is up and this way. So this guy, not only is he looking towards us, but I'm going to draw, and this is what I'm going to call my attitude line. We're coming down here. He's going to have a slight curve because see his butt's over in here. So this is going to slowly curve and come this way. And of course, his leg will be sitting down there. Now, I'm going to do two things. Leave your drawing big. I said 2 1/4 on his head. Leave your drawing big. Let's say this big. And let's just do some sighting in. Now, he's got a hat on, right? So his hat's going to be up in here, approximately. This is all approximately. And this is coming across his forehead, somewhere in here, his hat. Eventually, I'm thinking this horn, since his attitude's turned this way, I'm going to do horns on this one, I think, just because I haven't done horns in a while on them. Let's see. Whoop. I got to get up here. Up higher. So this is kind of, everything's big, but I'm picturing this here. I'm picturing his eyes attitude coming across here, his nose. I'm going to draw it bigger than it needs to be, way bigger. Because remember the rule I've told you guys, You can take more off, but you can't put it back. So in your drawing, draw big. And of course, he's going to have a mustache. And his attitude is, since everything's kind of blowing this way, this cape and stuff, his mustache, I think, eventually going to be blowing this direction back like this. This is his hair area. I don't know how much of this I will need, but this is hair. And the same way over in here. And since his hair is blowing back towards him, now his beard's going to be laying out on his chest in here too. You know, this is all just approximate. All right. I'm going to continue to work his back a little bit. I have his arms drawn way long, but I need to keep this shoulder up high because, see, I can always carve more down on his shoulder. But if I get it too low right off the bat, then I don't have any wood to go to. So I would leave this shoulder high and begin to work down. And I'm guessing that his arms are 3.5 inches or something. But I'm actually going to, when I'm drawing, I'm going to go 4 inches with him here for right now. And I'm going to picture in his muscles. Let's say this is a muscle. This is a muscle. The back of his arm area here. And then to his elbow, of course, here. Then let's go ahead and go approximately 4 for now. It's going to put me long, but see, I won't commit on two things. I won't commit on the wrist and the thumb. I'm guessing this thumb is in this area, and he's holding the reins to this horse, which after I get this guy proportioned out, then I'll begin to mess with the horse's head. Usually if I'm doing a rider on a horse, which I've done maybe 10 times over the years, I will make the horse heads about the length of the guy's back. And there's really no rule of thumb to that because all the horse heads could be a lot different. But I'm not even going to be concerned much about my horse. I'm going to take all the wood everywhere off that I absolutely know that I can get rid of. For instance, I want to leave this weapon, which is going to be a broad axe type thing, but I want to leave it bridged against his head to where it's not going to get all hokey and get broke off there. So I'm going to draw it out and take it back, but I want to leave it at an angle. All right. This is going to be his arm that's up holding that weapon in there. But it needs to go back. I have to have depth to gain height, if that means anything. In other words, this arm is the closest thing to us. This knee is the closest thing to us. So I'm going to begin to take wood away here more. I'm going to begin to round this arm and stuff out. I know I can take the mane of the horse and stuff back because of the shape of a horse's neck goes to you've put your hand on a horse's neck before, it gets narrow. So a lot of this, even though there's hair here, mane, I can take that back to gain more height. The same way here, I haven't proportioned out these legs on the horse yet because I will try to get a little more scoping in on how big the horse's head is next. But I do know that I can take this back leg back further. And this is the way I'm going to work, you guys. I'm going to continue to work. Now this is going to be the hoof on this back leg down here. I can take this whole area back. I still got a good 2 inches of wood here. and here. So same way up here. Now, since this weapon is going to be curved and coming back, I could probably even take some off the back of the weapon and begin to thin it. But mostly here, I'm going to take this back more. Keep in mind, his legs are going to round out here. So for a little while, I'm going to continue to take background stuff back that I know goes back. I'm going to work anywhere that I absolutely know that I can take some wood off. And of course, a smart aleck pun in wood carving would be, I'm going to take everything away that's not a Viking or a horse. It's that simple. You just carve everything off that's not a Viking or a horse, right? So, and I'm having fun with the project, you guys, and that's the main thing. Now, that little segment, I just wanted to catch you up on where I'm going and how I'm figuring out where he's at in there. If you haven't done a lot of proportioning with the human figure, I do have a proportion wheel. Of course, I can't find it right now, but there is a proportion wheel, and it's a guy named Wayne Hossople has made it. And what you do, it only goes up to 32 inches, I believe. But anything taller than that, you just double it, you know. But you turn this proportion wheel to your height. Like my guy is 17 and a half inches tall. I could turn that proportion wheel and he will tell you how long your head's supposed to be, how long your arms are supposed to be, where your everything on the torso, that proportion wheel will tell you. So look it up. Like I said, the guy's name was Wayne Hossople. And I have used that proportion wheel so many times over the years that I practically wore it out. So anyway, I'm going to work the background and stuff here a little bit further. I may even start to work the face now that I'm pretty sure where his torso and stuff's going to be. Hope you guys picked up a few tips on this proportioning thing, but you're just going to have to do some studying on your own about human proportion. And if you haven't carved too many full figure guys, well, it's kind of a challenge to lay out a full figure. That's how I learned all the muscles and everything over the years where I've done bare-chested guys and stuff, is I've messed more of them up than I ever got right, you guys. So I'm going to work on this, and then we'll get back together here in a little while. I just wanted you guys to notice as I was carving, I'm moving. Whenever you're doing a composition of something with, you know, this guy's got an axe in this hand, he's got a cape back here, he's got a horse behind him, he's got a horse head, he's got reins in his hand coming through his hand and stuff. Always keep moving. Work here a minute. Work here a minute. Work here a minute. You might notice from I was just carving, I'm moving. I came down here and I knocked just a little bit off. I'm trying to gain the height more for his leg and his arm And of course, the edge of this shield I'm going to leave out. I don't want to get too involved back in this area yet because I'd like to have some stuff showing movement even off the shield, whether it's some kind of ribbon or braided something or something back there. I don't even really know. But move, carve here, move, carve here, move, carve here. Because invariably what happens, if you're carving in one space very long, you will back up and go, oh crap, I shouldn't have carved so much off there. So over the years of my carving experience, that's one thing I've learned. And I teach it. You guys know that I'm part of the marble carving seminar down here. I'm one of the instructors. And that's what I always tell these students carving marble, because marble's even kind of worse than wood as far as if you mess up, then you're really messed up, you know. Of course, wood's the same way. But I always tell them, keep moving. Just, you know, I'll see somebody working on one area, let's say the face or something, for a long, long time. I'll come by and say, move. Go to undeveloped areas. See, I kind of got my men developing a little bit, but if the guy's on the horse, my next move is I may have to start measuring where everything is on my horse soon. And that way I can start laying it all out, because this whole composition has to come, it's like a puzzle in reverse. It all has to come together in the end. Let's hope. Keep your fingers crossed. Here we go.